Afternoon, we're live. This is Wednesday afternoon homebuyer seminar. I'm Bill Gross, real estate broker here in Los Angeles, California, along with my colleague.
Yes, Patricia.Castillo.
Or Patricia.Castillo for gringos, and our good friend.
Gustavo Segura. How you guys doing?
That's Gustavo Segura for those of us who don't speak Spanish with a proper accent. And I love teasing these guys. I don't know why I do that. Anyhow, and it's great to have you guys do this every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Talk about all things buying first-time homes. Patricia, today I want to talk a little bit about FHA 100% financing. Can you get an FHA loan for 100%, Patricia?
Well, you know, this advertisement has been floating around, and I thought it would be a good topic to just go over today. So one of the highlights, or I should say the carrot that is being, dangled right now is 100% financing options for buyers. So when a buyer sees that, they automatically think or get the impression that they're going to be able to purchase a home with no money out of their pocket. And so the 100% financing option, this is provided through FHA, and typically the FHA loans will have a lower interest rate. But when we're looking at 100% financing, the lender is taking on that risk because they are loaning the buyer the full purchase price. So the 100% financing isn't exactly 100% because there's still closing costs. And with an FHA loan, you're having your property taxes included with your mortgage payment. So those will be impounded and also your insurance. And in order to establish that initial escrow account, they would collect maybe 4 to 5 months of property taxes through the funding. Then you have your settlement costs, which are title and escrow, recording, and notary fee. And, whatever loan fees there are wrapped up in there as well. So a buyer would need to come in to the deal just like any other buyer that would be applying for a loan would need to have at least $8,000 to $10,000 liquid in their account ready to pay for closing costs. So when you think about 100% financing, again, that can be misleading because you do need to have at least $8,000 to $10,000 available for closing costs. Now, the FHA loan is going to be, a first loan, and then there's going to be a second loan, which is going to be represent the 3.5% down payment. As it's not necessarily assistance because it is going to be paid back, but it is a second lien on title, so it's subordinate to that first lien.
So what you're saying is there's no free lunch.
There's no free lunch. So
but this is a program that might help you.
It could, yes.
But you have to have some money down, some closing cost money, and some prepaids closing costs.
Correct. And then we're also going to look at the rates because the rates for the second loan that represent the 3.5 as your down payment is going to differ as opposed to the first loan that you get.
Now, if you're getting a good deal, sometimes you can offer a higher sales price and have the seller pay some certain part of your closing costs, not all of it, but they can pay what we call your non-recurring closing costs, your one-time fees like escrow, title, lender fees, and things like that, correct?
Right, and that would have to fall under the parameters of the FHA loan as far as what they allow. And not all markets right now are necessarily going to fall into that as well because, For example, in LA, it's a pretty hot market. I don't see a lot of concessions happening, but there are other markets that would be offering some type of concession. And I think, Gustavo can tell us more about how the second loan rate will change and differ comparing to the first loan, even though they're both FHA.
Yeah. So, and I'll go over a little bit over. So the traditional FHA loan is the 3.5 down. So that is that program. And I think what could be a little misleading is that they call it 100% FHA loan, and it's not, because the other 3.5 is coming from a different loan. So that lender is getting this additional loan that's passing on to you so that you can then go ahead and pay for that 3.5% down. So a lot of times what I'm seeing when I have these scenarios coming over to me to review as a second set of eyes is they have the FHA loan, they have it at 3.5% down, they have a rate of about 7.5. Now, traditional FHA rate should be somewhere lower than that. So as you can see, they're probably overcharging on the rate there on the first part, and then the second loan that's coming in, that's not an FHA loan. That is just a second loan that is being used to help put down the 3.5%. That is typically about 2% over that first rate. So if you're getting a 7.5 on the first one, that's your FHA loan. On the second rate, you're getting a 9.5%. So now we're seeing how quickly the payments can jump up, and that's probably that could be a lot more than if you were to have a 3.5% down, and then you have a FHA rate that I can give for like 6%. So that's why
Right.
it's good to shop around. There's loans out there that are getting that they are coming up with these solutions, right? The down payment is getting to be higher and higher. So there's lenders that are coming up with these solutions so that they can help out. But at the same time, like Bill said, there's no free lunch, and it's going to have a higher interest rate. It's going to have some additional fees on there because they need to make up that money somehow that they're lending. Now,
Right.
the other thing that I see is they have sometimes a prepayment penalty. They don't want you to take this loan and then in 6 months refinance because they didn't make a lot of money on that. They want you to hold on to that for a year, 2 years, because that's how they're going to make more money on it if you have a higher interest rate and you're locked in for that with a prepayment penalty on it on the smaller part of it, that 3.5%. So that's where it's really important to make sure that you're looking at the fine line of the small print on that second little loan, because that could be preventing you from being able to refinance later on.
Right. And most people will want to refinance after about the 2-year mark or 1.5 in order to get out of
Yeah.
that FHA premium.
I find
Right.
that when these new programs come out, I get a bunch of offers from inexperienced agents, and the rate is the same as a normal FHA, and the documentation isn't tight, it's not pre-approved, does not include with the offer. And when I say to the agent, does your buyer really qualify for this? Does your lender know this is the loan they're looking for? The whole thing kind of falls apart. And so for buyers, it's really important that there's nothing wrong with exploring new programs. But by law, when a lender quotes you a program, they have to give it to you in writing with all the numbers. Like they can say, well, generally it's 7, generally this. But if they're going to quote you a rate and fee for you to make an offer, they're required to give you an estimate in writing. That's why they often don't want to do that. It's too much work or whatever. But as a buyer, you should expect to be able to talk to a Gustavo or Patricia and get both options. What's the 3.5% down? What's the no money down? Let's side by side. What's the monthly payment going to be? What's this going to cost me at the close of escrow? And then you can make an informed decision. But too often I find that buyers get excited and it sounds to be too good to be true. And guess what? It is. And the whole thing falls apart. So that's why we work with professionals, and that's why Gustavo's here and Patricia's here, and because we want to make sure we get these things done ahead of time. Tell me about Gustavo, do you do MIPA loans? Looks like he froze up on us. He's a fast lender, but the video on his side's a little on the slow side.
It lags sometimes.
And he's gone. Okay.
And
So
I think he's in San Diego right now. So
there you go. So he's out having the good life. He was at Mexico last week, no? Or is that somebody else I was working with? Just real quick, I'll go do a quick update on the interest rates while we're here. You can see that rates still are slightly above 7%. And I think that, it's been in the range of 6 to 7 all year. It's at the high end of that range. It had been below 7, and it's been busted above and stayed above all week long last week. This is the longest rates have been above 7 the whole time. The concern, I think, has been, does this mean rates are going to go from 7 to 8 to 9 to 10? doesn't look like that. There's no evidence of that yet.
Right.
But our rate's slightly above 7 and go back down to 6. Doesn't look like that either. We've settled in at about this pace. So that also, though, means you can see that at one point last week, went from 7.04 to 7.2. And it'd be a shame if that's when you're locking your loan in. And if you bought a house, you had a certain budget in mind. So that's why it's important to know with your lender where you are as far as the market rate and where you on your ability to lock in. Are you able to? What do you need to be able to lock in the rate so that you take advantage of good opportunities? So if rates do drop like they did here, you could jump on that and lock in a low 6.5% and catch it at the right time. Right, Gustavo, how about the market? A little on one hand quieted down, on the other hand it's been a little exciting. What's going on?
Yeah, exactly. And tomorrow we have the inflation reports coming out. So it's probably going to be a little bit misleading from what I'm hearing and what the reports that I'm looking at, because the inflation report looks at the last 12 months of data. And we're going to be replacing some very, very, zero, very close to 0% numbers. It's going to bump up the inflation numbers. So I think tomorrow is one of those 50-50 shot. Is it going to cause for the rates to go up a little bit or go down a little bit? But like you said, for the next month or so, I see them just kind of going up and down a little bit at a time. And then once we get past October, I think we are going to be able to start seeing a normal trend of going downward, because inflation then is going to be replacing some big inflation numbers that we had last year at the end of the year.
Very good. Okay, so quick market update. Patricia, what do you see as far as the market? How are buyers, sellers, open house attendance? What do you see going on?
Well, it's still very competitive because we continue to have a low inventory market. So even as we're getting towards, the ending of summer, which is usually the busiest time of home shopping and selling, spring and summer market, we're still seeing quite a bit of activity at open houses and, listings that I've had on the market, a lot of interest, and multiple offers coming in on those listings as well. So it's still a very competitive time, and it's just getting prepared and staying prepared. So if you're a buyer in today's market, looking at your finances, a loan approval, getting maybe a soft pull done with Gustavo where your credit is not pulled, or just looking at an analysis of your finances and income to see what you could potentially qualify for. And then eventually your credit will be pulled. But right now it's still a busy market.
So busy market. If you are ready to go, though, you're going to get accepted. As a listing agent, I can tell you every listing I have right now is an escrow. I had multiple offers on all of them. I have people still calling me on properties that are in escrow. So there's enough demand where with all the properties available, buyers are looking for ones that are under contract, and they're calling me, or agents are calling me, hey, is it available? What's going on with it? Call me, want to write a backup offer. So, I think the word to the buyer is, if you really want a property, don't let 2 or 3 percentage points cause you to lose the property. I had a multiple offer. I really can't get too much in the numbers, but I had 3 offers, and one was slightly higher by, I guess, 1.5% over the other 2. And the other 2 agents were on the phone crying to me, really. I feel bad for them. Well, if I had known, we would have written offers higher. And I said, well, I asked you to write your best and final. And, well, my buyer would have gone another X%. And I said, well, that's the time to do it. The time to do it is when you get a request for best and final. So challenging market, but those who are prepared and those who know what their goals are going to be successful, like in any other endeavor of life. Last words, Gustavo. What do you recommend for buyers in the market today, or sellers? What's the latest word from you?
Like for the buyers, hang tight here over the next month or so. I think you guys will continue to see that up and down. Do we cross over 7? Do we get below 7? Up and down. It doesn't mean that we're going to be going up to 8. I think all the data does show that over the next month or two, we are going to turn that point where we're going to get past this, and we're going to start seeing a little bit lower rates as we go into the end of the year and into next year as well. So during this time, Keep your finances in check. You know, get pre-approved, but don't get discouraged over the next month or so.
Fantastic. Okay, there you go. So if somebody wants to reach out, Gustavo, your phone number is there on your banner. You want to go ahead and say it out loud?
Yeah, 714-334-4563.
Okay. And Patricia, someone wants to get a hold of you. What's the best way?
Yeah, so my cell phone number, 323-365-9909. And don't wait until the rest of the competition waits for the rates to come down, because then you're going to have even more competition. So,
yep. Well, some of the most stupid advice I saw was the CEO of Compass saying that, buyers, there'll be more inventory if rates drop from 7 to 5%, because more sellers would decide to sell their house and go buy something else.
right.
Well, yeah, but there'll be a million more buyers if rates go down to 5%. So it kind of goes both ways. So the moral of the story is, when it's the right time for you to buy, and before it's that time, get ready so that you're in a position to get what you want. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
We do this if you watch this on the replay, put your comments in. We'll circle back and catch up with you. I'm Bill Gross, along with my colleague, Patricia. I can't decide if I would speak English or Spanish. Patricia.Castillo, and our other good friend, Gustavo Segura. And thank you so much. We'll do this every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Have a great week.
That's right. Bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye.